Welcome, parishioners, to the Church of Athreos. We have Jerren, Corrupt Bishop, joining us today, which we are very excited about. As far as our opening hand goes, yeah, we'll keep on this one. I like it. If we wanted to be aggressive, we could ship this one back. We don't have a card draw source, but we've got a payoff spell for any of our creatures going to the graveyard. We've got a payoff spell for any of our creatures dying in Grim. And then we've got a little bit of no, I wouldn't call it fast mana. We got some ramp in Worn Power Stone. So there we go. Let's put it that way. So let's go and lead off with Swamp. And then I guess we're going to lead, well, we can flash in Thieves Guild if we need to. So anything else, let's go and pass the turn over to our opponent. But yes, welcome. If you're sitting in the pews today, hope you're excited for a very fun church service. We got Jerren, Corrupt Bishop. Whenever Jerren enters the battlefield, there we go. Whenever Jerren enters the battlefield or another non-token human creature you control dies, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 white human creature token. Then for a 2-mana activation, target human you control gains lifelink until end of turn. Then at the beginning of your end step, if you have exactly 13 life, you may pay 6 mana. If you do, transform Jerren into Ormondal. All right, I like it. Let's go and flash in Thieves Guild. That sounds like a pretty good plan, and that way we can make the land drop for next turn. And not that that was contingent on getting down Thieves Guild, but we'll just go ahead and utilize our mana and get that down for a 1/1. So see what we draw into for the turn. Maybe we run into Sign in Blood or Night Whisper. If not, we'll get the Swamp down, and then we will pass the turn. So let's see what we draw into. All right, so we run into another Swamp, so let's get the Swamp down. And we could swing in for 1, but I think we're simply just going to go and hold off on this one, and then anything else, we will pass the turn over to our opponent. We're playing Jerren, Corrupt Bishop. Once we get all that done on the front and we get it to flip, Jerren's going to flip into Ormondal, the Corruptor. Flying, Trample, and Lifelink. Then for an activated ability, sacrifice another creature, draw a card. Playing gets Akiri. We got some partner action over here. It's going to be First Strike and Vigilance. Then Akiri gets +1/+0 for each artifact that you control. Also playing against Anara. As long as it's your turn, commanders you control have indestructible. All right, so we're probably looking at some Naya Voltron, which should be pretty interesting. Excited to see what's going to happen out of that, and we'll see what else we can go. But next turn we've got Grim, so we can get Grim down, and that'll be some board wipe protection in the form of card draw. Which, to be honest, right now, I feel like that might be the better option for us, because it would be nice to get some humans on the battlefield with Jerren, but I think at this point, we'd rather have card draw out there. So let's go and let our opponent swing in for 1. It's going to knock us down to 42, and that'll be 1 total commander damage. We could try to go for 1 Power Stone, and that'll set up the double play for Grim and Jerren. I might kind of like that. Yeah, let's do that. So let's go Worn Power Stone. Let's go, let's get the land drop down. Let's go Worn Power Stone, and then anything else, we'll pass it back over to our opponent. So we did cover both commanders. Let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors, TCG Player. If you go to bit.ly/JoltMTG, that's going to apply my affiliate link. That'll allow you to get some cards and help support the channel at the same time. So if you use that link, much obliged. I certainly appreciate it. Let's give a quick shout out to MTGOTraders. If you want to play online, let's give a quick shout out to inkgaming.com/Jolt for 10% off of your order. And last but not least, I started a Patreon, so if you'd like to directly support cool content like this, there's a link down in the description below. But if you're keeping score at home in the church pews of the Church of Athreos, it is officially free time. And by free time, I mean sacrifice time. Let's have some fun. Well, it's not technically sacrifice time yet. We don't have a sack outlet, but hopefully we'll find one sometime soon. Now, our opponent's got some got some good stuff. And we got Goblin Welder down. Let's make sure we're not missing any sort of wild-looking artifact out of the graveyard. Looks like we're good. And good thing right now is that Akiri is just simply sitting at a 2/3. We are running like 30-something creatures in here, so even if they do start going Voltron, if they don't get Trample out there, hopefully we should start being able to run into some chump blockers, and especially with Jerren out there giving us that token whenever a creature dies, or at least whenever a human dies. So it's going to lead off with Swamp, and yeah, I like this because it's going to be double board wipe protection. So let's go for good Jerren. Let's get Jerren onto the battlefield. That's going to be a 1/1 human, and let's go and get Grim onto the battlefield too. Let's go Grim, and we could, we're not going to cast it face down, so we'll get Grim down. And then anything else, kick it back over to our opponent. Now, our opponent does have Orcish Lumberjack. If we do run into a sack outlet, what we can do is we can actually use Living Death as a board wipe in a roundabout way. So we can sacrifice all of our creatures, and then we can use Living Death to bring them back out and really get that extra value. So that's a line of play that we can go for, only if things get a little bit nutty on our opponent's side of the battlefield. But yes, as far as Jerren goes, this is a very heavy human deck. You know, one of the things that Jerren cares about is having human creatures on the battlefield. That way, you can get those human tokens and really get those. Just end up with a lot of value, you know, especially sacrificing a lot of your creatures. But one of the things that we're running a lot of humans in here, we do have some non-human creatures in here. And one of the things that you still want to incorporate into your Jerren deck is that you still need sack outlets, and unfortunately, there's just not a lot of good free sack outlets that are humans. You know, either they have a cost attached to it, even just simply just one colorless mana, or maybe it says, you know, sacrifice this, do this. When you're building a deck that cares about sacrificing creatures, you want your sack outlets to be totally free. So the core of the deck is human, but we are running some non-human creatures in here simply just to make the deck function at a little bit more of an efficient line of play. So, and we might end up going for Sir Conrad next turn. We'll see. So let's go and lead off with the swamp. Actually, let's go read the bones. I think I kind of like that. So let's go read the bones. We're going to scry 2, then draw 2. I think what we're looking for right now is going to be some sort of, it's going to be Force of Despair. Not too bad. Let's go actually put both of these on the bottom. And then we rip into Phyrexian Arena and Liliana, which I really do like on that. So let's go and lead off with Phyrexian Arena. And then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn. So next turn, what we'll probably end up doing is going for Liliana, because once we get down Liliana, that's going to allow us to go for those zombie tokens on the battlefield. The other thing is that when it's going to kind of double up on the Grim trigger that we've got, so that whenever a creature dies, we get to cash in a card draw. One of the best things in Magic, you know, especially if you're new to Commander, or you've been playing Commander for a long time, is having some sort of board wipe protection. And especially in the form of card draw, that is really good. So you can definitely set this up in Jerren. Liliana is going to allow us to do that whenever a creature we control dies, draw a card, and also with Grim. We are running Dark Prophecy in here, which is the triple black enchantment that whenever a creature dies, we get to go for a card draw. But yeah, you know, that's one of the ways to kind of not necessarily counter a board wipe, but, you know, if you can cash in, you know, let's say we have Liliana and Grim down, drawing in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 cards. That's always a really good feeling. Outside of the humans in the deck, one of the other ways with Jerren that you can, you know, when we sit down to play Jerren, that's going to be, let's see what this is. Rule of Law, each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. Okay. That's not the end of the world. And with Liliana, we can go for the -4 next turn, but we'll kind of see what we're going to end up doing on that one. But yeah, with Jerren, you know, it's always a goal to get Ormondal onto the battlefield, get Jerren to flip. One of the ways in Mono Black that you can get that to happen is there's a couple of different cards you can run. We have Blood Celebrant in here, which has a black activation, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And so that's one way that we can get that cleric down, that human cleric down, pay that activated ability just over and over and over again until we get down to 13, and that'll, you know, as long as we have 6 mana, that'll get Jerren to flip and then turn into Ormondal. There's also Wall of Blood, which is pay 1 life. Wall of Blood gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and then we also have, but there's also Phyrexian Processor, which allows you to pay any amount of life to get you down to 13. Now, as far as this deck goes, since we are kind of relying a little bit more on just kind of like a light Humans Aristocrats package, we're not running a ton of the, let's see, let's go and let this go on through. So protection, that's going to be first strike. I think we just throw Thieves Guild in front of that. I think we're okay with that, because that's going to be Grim Trigger, which we're totally okay with, and that'll give us an extra token for next turn. Yeah, let's go and go for that. So we're going to block on Akiri, and the main thing with that is it's going to stop that sword trigger. So let's get the Grim Trigger on the stack. Let's get Jerren Trigger going too. Slowly working our way towards that 13 life total. It's going to drop us down to 35, give us another human token, cash in another card draw, and then we got 4 coming across. That's going to put us down to 31. But yeah, so we're not running all of the different life loss effects in here simply because it's just hard. It's hard to get down to exactly 13 and have the mana to do that. And, you know, you just didn't want to dedicate too many cards to that and have that be a dead card in your hand whenever the game moves on. So that's something we didn't want, or at least something I wanted to keep in mind when doing that. So let's go and cross off Sword of Fire and Ice. They still have Rule of Law in their hand. They have not cast that yet. So let's go and go Swamp. And so at this point, we are looking at 8 total mana. If we want to go Ophiomancer, we can get that down and still have Eat to Extinction on Akiri, which is going to be an exile effect, which might be nice on that. I think I like going Liliana on this one because they're going to have protection from blue. Yeah, let's do that. So let's end up going Liliana. This does cut us off spot removal, but I kind of like this. So let's get the zombie token onto the battlefield. And what's going to end up happening is if they want to end up dealing with Liliana, they're going to have to swing into our board state, and that's going to trigger Grim and trigger Liliana for just a ton of card draw. And if we can get to the point to we're having to discard down to hand size, we might be able to set up a semi-decent living death. So anything else, let's pass it back over to our opponent. But yeah, so we've got the that one way to get us all the way down to 13. To be honest, even if you're I don't know what sort of build you would go with Jerren. I don't know how many of those life loss effects I would run in there. Probably one or two is going to be enough. But if you were just, hell bent on getting Ormondal flipped, hey, run all of them in there. But other than that, as far as suggestions to put into your Jerren deck, you just want to have a good mono black core shell in here. That's something that's really. And actually, I need to look at this fighter class. Let me take a quick look at this real quick. I haven't really played with a lot of these class cards, and so sometimes when you see something like when I see Goblin Welder, my brain's like, all right, I know what that does. But I kind of forgot what fighter class does, so that's something we do want to look at. And that's going to be level 3. So whenever a creature you control attacks, up to one target creature blocks this combat if able. Okay, so that's going to be fine with that. So let's see how they decide to go for that fighter class activation. Hopefully we can set it up to where if they swing in, we can lose a lot of our creatures and then be able to get them back with living death, because that would be a very good option. But yeah, you want to have a good mono black core shell. This could be a lot of spot removal. You want to have some good board wipes in here. You also, you don't have to go super heavy on aristocrats with like blood artists and that, but different things like Grim, different things like Atherid Necromancer, that whenever a human you control dies, you get a zombie. You basically want to set it up to where you're getting multiple, it's almost like a 3-for-1. If a creature dies right now, we're going to get a 2-for-1. We lose a creature, but we get 2 card draw. You just want to make sure that you have some sort of overlapping effect that cares about creatures dying and getting some sort of nice added bonus, because when you get a lot of those on the battlefield, it is very gnarly and it's a lot of fun. All right, so we're going to have Grim block on this one. Grim has to block, and I think what we're going to do on this, so let's go, because that's going to leave us with just nothing but tokens. So let's go ahead and have, let's go and go to blocks. Let's go Jerren on Akiri, and let's go Grim on Anara. I kind of like that because it's going to be a 2-3 and a 3-2. Their creatures still stick around, and all we have left are tokens. So yeah, let's go and go for that. And we're going to get double card draw trigger. Now, we did send Jerren to the command zone because we're going to try to set up a living death for next turn, which I really do like. So it's going to be additional card draw. Scourge High Priest is going to send Grim back into the graveyard. And that's going to be Vampiric Tutor, which is very nice. It's very nice to have that card. So let's see what else they have. They are completely tapped out, so we're actually going to have a very nice turn for next turn. So let's get the Phyrexian Arena card draw trigger. Look at this. Got a ton of cards in the hand. All right, we run into Bloodsoaked Champion, and then we've got Demon's Disciple. Okay. All right, so let's make the land drop for the turn for sure. And let's go ahead and we don't want to give them any creatures. They can block with Goblin Welder. So I think what we're going to do on this one is let's go ahead and go for Living Death, because that's going to bring Jerren back out, Thieves Guild, and hit the reset button on them. So let's go for that. It's going to be 1-2 and tap down 1 Power Stone. Oh, look at that. So let's get the Liliana triggers on the stack. That's going to be a Jerren trigger, human token. That's going to be some more card draw. My goodness, look at that. Okay, so let's go and go for the -2. Each player sacrifices 2 creatures. So we're going to sacrifice the human token, and we're going to go ahead and sacrifice the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Oh, look at this. Look at that. This is value right here. Even if we don't win, we have already achieved a win with this this stack right here. All right, so that's going to be Swamp. That's going to be Ashnod's Altar. And then we cannot swing in, so let's go ahead and make sure we make the land drop for the turn. Let's go ahead and drop in. We did make the land drop for the turn. We have 4 total mana. What is the best way that we can... It's going to be Arcane Signet for 2 into Chromatic Lantern. Let's do that. So let's go 1-2 with Arcane Signet. Let's go Chromatic Lantern. That way we can set up as much mana for next turn. And that'll still leave us open on Vampiric Tutor, and we can kind of figure out what we actually want to do from there. And we can always do that during our upkeep. We're going to drop in one more. We have nothing that costs 1. We do have Blood-Soaked Champion. So let's go and put down Blood-Soaked Champion. I like that. All right, there we go. So let's get down Blood-Soaked Champion. We have more than enough mana with Arcane Signet and Chromatic Lantern. So what we're going to do on this, we're going to discard Swamp, Swamp. Let's go ahead and get rid of, and actually do like Lightning Greaves on this one. Okay, so those all go into the bin. Then anything else, pass it back over to our opponent. So next turn, we do end up, we've got Lightning Greaves. We're going to be able to put down Lightning Greaves if we can get the, oh goodness, I accidentally got rid of our sack outlet in Ashnod's Altar. So what we can do with Vampiric Tutor, we can grab ourselves a sack outlet with Vampiric Tutor and get a 5/5 demon on the battlefield. All right, opponent's going to go for Boros Charm onto Liliana. Fair enough. They've seen a lot of damage happen with that. One of the good things that we are looking at right now is that if they do get down a creature, we still have Eat to Extinction right now, and we do have Demon's Disciple. So that's going to allow us to really start swinging in on our opponent, and especially if we end up going Lightning Greaves with Doom Whisper, we can just start sending the crew in and start going for that. Okay, and our opponent finally goes for Rule of Law, tapping out for that. That may actually end up being good. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. That does force us to kind of bottleneck down to 1 spell. But, you know, when you're trying to play from behind and we have as many resources as we do, I feel like we're going to be able to take advantage of that. So let's see what we draw into for the turn. This is going to be Phyrexian Arena, and then we run into Damnation. So let's make the land drop for the turn. That's going to be Swamp. And I think we just go Demon's Disciple. Yeah, I like that, because that's going to clear the way. I think what we're going to need to do, especially with Rule of the Law on the battlefield, is we need to make sure that they have no creatures out there. That's going to be one of the best ways to do it. So let's go ahead and, I guess on this one, we can sacrifice Demon's Disciple. Yeah, we're fine with that. All right, so we're going to get a 1/1 creature onto the battlefield. We're going to get get a Grim trigger for a card draw. Run into Plaguecrafter, which is very nice to see. Let's go and swing in with the entire crew. Going to come across, and we can no longer cast any spells for the turn, but we do have some instant speed options that we can go for next turn. That's going to be Vampiric Tutor and Eat to Extinction. So anything else, let's go and pass it back over there. So next turn, we're looking at 5. We need to discard down to hand size. Let's go ahead and get rid of... We'll probably get rid of... We could maybe set up a Sir Conrad line of play if we wanted to. Let's get rid of Skirtstag High Priest. I think that's okay. We could potentially set up a Skirtstag High Priest line of play by getting that down and getting down Lightning Greaves. If you're not familiar with Skirtstag High Priest, I would highly recommend putting this in your Jerren deck. There's just a lot of times where that effect doesn't seem that good. You're thinking like, you know, we're going to have multiple creatures on the battlefield. We have to tap down Skirtstag and tap down 2 creatures. Get Morbid online. But it's one of those cards that it's going to draw some heat whenever it's down, you know, especially if your opponent wants to get rid of it. But, you know, once you have creatures, you get these human tokens out there. There's a lot of times where you're just turn after turn making a 5/5 demon. And, you know, especially utilizing something like using something like Lightning Greaves onto, you know, let's say we get Skirtstag down, we get Lightning Greaves onto it, give it haste, then we get that 5/5 demon down, kind of go from there. It's just a very, very powerful card. Our opponent's going to go for Akiri Line Slinger. And then we're going to wait for them to go for the Sword of Fire and Ice activation. And let's go and go for the Exile effect. That's going to be 1, 2. And we are in a good spot with that Rule of Law. That is actually going to work out to our benefit. So let's go and exile Akiri. And do we want to put One-Eyed into the graveyard? Actually, no. I think we're okay. We're going to leave that on top. That was one of the cards that I had thought about grabbing with Vampiric Tutor, but I kind of like that. All right, so we're going to get the Phyrexian Arena card draw trigger. So we're going to draw into One-Eyed, and then we run into another Swamp for the turn. So let's make the land drop. And I think at this point, just in case our opponent does run into a board wipe, let's just go and get Sir Conrad down. I feel like that's going to be the best bet for us. I think so. Yeah, let's go and do that. So let's go and swing in with the entire crew. And we do have Vampiric Tutor, and so what we may end up grabbing... We'll kind of see exactly what we're going to grab off of that, but let's go and push in. It's going to drop him down to 19, and then anything else, pass it over to our opponent. So with Sir Conrad, so whenever another creature dies or another creature card is put into a graveyard, our opponent's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. So let's say our opponent does top deck a board wipe. At least we're going to have some sort of board wipe insurance. And Sir Conrad, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll be 5 damage we're going to be able to deal to them. That's one of the things that I was talking about, is you just want to have that overlapping value with creatures, you know, whether it's dying or something like Sir Conrad to make that happen. So let's go and swing with the entire crew. That's going to be Phyrexian Arena. And actually, I think if we end up going Damnation with Sir Conrad, I think that's going to be it. So let's do this. So let's go and swing in. Because if I did the math right, we're going to be able to swing in, and it's going to drop them down to 5. And then that should be enough on our main phase. Let's double check it. So whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, that should work. I'm not sure how Sir Conrad interacts with tokens. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Yeah, let's give that a shot. I'm pretty sure this is going to work. So we're going to go Damnation. That's going to be 1/2. That's going to destroy all creatures. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, so let's get Jerren triggers on the stack first. Okay, so let's get these Sir Conrad triggers on the stack. Let's go and always yield to these Sir Conrad triggers. That's going to be 5 exact Sir Conrad triggers to put our opponent down to 0. So, a little bit of a, not necessarily a mess, but you can definitely see there. Our opponent's going to keep it up on that one. Beautiful church service. You can see this deck is something that is just an interesting deck to play. You know, there's not necessarily, you know, if we can get Jerren to flip and turn into Ormondal, awesome. If we can't make that happen, we've got this overlapping synergy line of play, but, you know, this video showcases exactly what we're trying to do with Jerren, and that's just having fun, blowing up creatures and getting them onto the battlefield and getting tokens down. But anyway, if you enjoyed your time at the Church of Athreos, hey, like and subscribe. Bye.